Hi everybody, welcome back again to the Drunken Bull Ranch. I'm Reed. So we are faced with decision time. I'm going to say that I have taken counsel from a few people. I also talked it over with my wife, and we've come to the conclusion that in order to keep the weeds from spreading in our field, we're going to go ahead and cut it for hay. Let me show you. So you can see that the alfalfa has flowered out. The morning glory's flowered out. There's quite a bit of weeds that have come up in here. This one in particular, there's weeds all throughout. You can see those weeds there. But so we want to use this for pasture. I think it'll be a good pasture. We planted the grass in here. It's coming through. Oh, here's a prime example right here. See how these weeds right here are starting to go to seed? That's what I'm trying to avoid, because I don't want more weeds. So the debate was, do we just mow it down, leave it lay, and use it as like compost, or do we go ahead and bale it up and use it for hay? Now, this isn't hay that I'm going to sell to anybody because it's full of weeds, but what I can do is feed some of our own animals with it. And where we're thinking we're going to get some more cows, that's probably not a bad idea to have some additional hay. Last winter was quite long, and we managed to get through it with the hay we had. Right now I think we still have 24 bales, but if we'd have had an extra 24 days of winter, we'd have had a problem. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we're thinking, is we're going to go ahead and cut this for hay. Because of that, I broke out the old Hesston 1120 Swather. I'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, so one other thing that I should tell you is that that field is big enough that one steer, which is all we have right now that really eats grass, is never going to catch up to it. So he's never going to knock the weeds down. It's going to become a significant problem as far as the weeds go, which is why we're going to cut it. So let me show you this. This is our Hesston 1120 Swather. I've got it out here. I've got the covers off, as you can see. But this is when they were teamed up with Fiat Agra. This Swather is an 1120. Like I said, right down there. They Fiat Agra and Hesston teamed up to make this thing. I'm going to say that this Swather has been in my family for as long as I can remember. It was owned by my uncle. It was then owned by my brother, and now I own it. I have owned it for, oh goodness, 5 years I think now. We bought it before we moved to this property. This machine, I'm going to say, has been a great machine. It is a sickle bar. I should probably mention that. You guys can see it right down there. I like the sickles. They work pretty good, and they use less horsepower than a mower deck or a rotary. And so yeah, I really like this Swather. Of all the equipment that I've got, this thing breaks down the least. I guess that's how I should say that. It breaks down the least. I have had to replace chains and things like that on it, but I got it out and have done the maintenance on it. I've greased up the chains, adjusted the tensioner. On the other side, I had to repair, and I don't even know if you can see it from here, Let me see if I can get this down in there. I had to repair that guy, the skid plate. On the last trip around the field last year, that skid plate broke, so I did a wonderful farmer weld once again to repair that. I'm going to tell you all something that my brother told me years ago, and it stuck. And that is that grease is cheap. Parts are expensive. So make sure that you're greasing your equipment, and it will last a long, long time. You gotta oil your chains, put grease in all your grease certs, and it will last. That is one piece of advice that I have always been appreciative of, because this machine right here has lasted a long, long time. And it will last a lot longer. And you can still get parts for them and everything like that. It's a pretty dang good machine. So we'll show you it in action here in just a little bit. Okay, everybody, I told you when I got busy cutting that I'd show you this thing in action. So here you go. There isn't a whole lot there that's good feed, and if I switch this around, you can see what I left on the last pass. But again, I'm more or less doing this for weed control. I just want to make sure that the weeds don't get ahead of the grass, and I end up with a whole lot more weeds. And technically it takes probably the better part of a year to get a good pasture. So hopefully this is helping. Like I said, I kind of took the advice of friends and family, and my wife and I decided that it would be a good idea to cut it. So that's kind of where we're at. And I just hit the end of the road. There you go, you can see it. Or at least I think you can. Take these glasses off, that might help. But I got it up, going across the field to the next section. We'll lower it back down. Now, one thing that I should tell you while you're watching this thing go around is that my little LS tractor is 50 horsepower. That unit behind me says that it only needs approximately 35 horsepower to be able to cut hay. What I have discovered is that it's not a matter of horsepower, it's a matter of weight ratio. That Swather outweighs this tractor. The tractor puts out about 45 PTO, or horsepower at the PTO, and that's all well and good. It'll run the machine, but it's the weight. If I was cutting on a hill or something like that, I would probably be a little scared. Reason being is that Swather can push around the tractor. I'm gonna say I hit a wet spot out here from watering, and it was still a little squishy anyway, and it started pulling the tractor around. So yeah, you got to be mindful of those things when you're looking for equipment. I personally prefer this old Swather to some of the new Swathers. Reason being is, one, it's a heck of a lot cheaper, and two, I can fix it myself, it's not a problem. But yeah, it does outweigh the tractor, and it can give you grief as far as that goes. And I'm trying to film and talk to you and cut hay at the same time. So what I usually do is I do 3 passes around the outside, and then I'll turn around and do a fourth pass going the other way. That gives me plenty of room to make my turns and things like that where I'm cutting. I will say that if you put 10 farmers in the same room and ask them how to cut hay or how to do anything as far as farming goes, you will get 10 different answers. So do what works for you, and yeah. Okay, so that's all for now, and when I'm done, I'll show you what I ended up with. Okay, everybody, I'm done cutting. Let me show you this. Okay, so there is the tractor, the LS XR 4150. There is the Hesston Swather 1120. Also says Fiat Agra on it, as you can see up there. Now, once again, the only reason I cut this was because I didn't want the weeds, and that our one steer is never going to be able to graze all this off. But you can see, I mean, there's not a lot there. The grass just did not grow as quickly as I had hoped. I mean, up on that side of the field, yeah, there's a little bit there. But we will probably only get, I don't know, 10, maybe 20 bales off of this. So, not a whole lot. I probably burned more in fuel than if I would have just gone and bought 10, 20 bales of hay. Okay, that might be a lie. That little tractor's pretty good on diesel. It used a quarter tank. It's got about a 12-gallon tank. So, yeah, I didn't burn 50 bucks in fuel. But if you figure the time and energy that went into it and everything like that, probably not all that worth it. But it will save us on the weeds. Hopefully we'll get some hay off of it that we can use. I'll get it baled here. It'll probably take 2 or 3 days to dry out. It's getting pretty warm, up into the 80s, so it shouldn't take too long to dry out. But yeah, the little Hesston Swather and the little LS tractor did great. I will say that, once again, the Swather right there outweighs the tractor. So if you're going to use a small tractor like this to run a Swather like that, be careful. You get on hills, get on wet surfaces, things like that, you can end up in a world of hurt in a big hurry. Now, I'm going to throw a caveat in there for you. This Swather that I'm about to sit on, like I said earlier in the video, was owned by my uncle, it was owned by my brother, now it's owned by me. The reason that I elected to go with this Swather is that I knew I had enough horsepower to run it. I was pretty sure I was heavy enough that I wasn't going to have a problem. You can also put fluid in your tires to give yourself a little more weight, and it won't push you around as much. But the reason that I went with this is that this Swather I bought from my brother. He was kind enough to sell it to me for 3,000 bucks, which is a pretty good deal on a Swather, especially one that's in good working order. And so that's why I went with this Swather. There are other attachments, little sickle bar attachments, little mower attachments, all sorts of stuff that would work a whole lot better on this tractor as far as weight and things like that. And someday maybe I'll look into it, but as of right now I'm going to stick with this guy because it's paid for and it works good. Sorry about the wind, by the way. So yeah, when you're starting out on a small farm, you kind of have to go with what's in your budget. This one was in our budget, It looks kind of hammered, but it cuts great. I will say that previous to buying this property, we were cutting other properties, and the only time that I had a really hard time cutting was in real thick grass that was, you know, 3.5, 4 feet tall, and it slowed the Swather right down. I got into low range, first gear, and was just crawling through the field. But for most cuttings, it works just great and doesn't give you too much grief. Anyway, so there you go. That's my little video, and assuming that we bale this, I'll probably end up rolling it. So I'll do a couple of videos. The reason for rolling it would be to put enough through the baler that it'll actually make a bale rather than something that resembles just a wad of hay. Anyway, yeah, so there you go. As always, support your local farmers. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk at you later. Bye.